In this tutorial, I will teach you how you can make a web application in Spring 3 using Hibernate 3 and MySQL as backend database. So this tutorial is about Hibernate Spring integration back with MySQL database. So in this example, we are going to create a form so that user can enter the data. Then there will be a page that will list the data available in the database and also the option to edit and delete the data. So let's run the example first. So this is the first page and I can add the data from here. So data is added and now it is displaying the data, and I can add more data. So this data is also displayed. We can delete on clicking the delete button. To edit, I have to click this and we can change some data and it is changed. So in this example, there is only one table, employee, and in the employee table we are inserting the data, updating the data, getting the data from employee table, and there is option to delete also. So first of all, see the table structure, and our database is Spring Hibernate and table is employee, and here we have data. So this is the employee table from which we are performing the insert, update and delete operation. So stop the Tomcat and let's see this example. So first of all, we have the model class which is in net.roseindia.domain package, and here we have 4 fields: ID, then name, address and salary. So these are the fields, and this is entity class, and it is mapped to the employee table. So you can map an entity using the annotation @table and mark this entity as a persistent entity with the @entity annotation. So this is the primary key which is marked as a ID, and the primary key generation strategy is generated values, means it is the MySQL who is generating the primary key by incrementing the value. And then we have the getters and setters. Similarly, for the name we have the mapping here, column column, and getters and setters. For address, the same thing is there. For salary also we have the getters and the setters for the variable, and the column annotation for mapping this field to the MySQL table. So once model is ready, we will see how we can create the DAO, data access object, and its implementation so that we can perform some operation. So in DAO we have this interface which is the method add employee, then display employee, find employee, edit employee, then find employee and delete employee. We have implementation for all these methods, and this is a session factory which is injected by the Spring framework in the runtime. And for this session factory we have the setter method. And To add employee, it is passing the employee object, employee form object, and then we are constructing the object of employee entity, then setting the name, address, salary, and then from the session factory we are getting open session, as it is getting a session, and then save or update. So it's going to save the employee. To display employee, from the form we are getting the employee class. So basically this is actually not required. It is simply loading all the objects from the employee class and returning it as an employee object. To list, find employee, and here we are creating a SQL Hibernate query. Then it is finding employee based on the name or salary or the employee ID, and finally creating the query and returning the data in the form of employees list. So query.list, and it is returning. Edit employee. So in case of edit, first we'll have to create the employee object, set all the values, and then call the session.merge employee. So it will update the data. Another way is you can just load the employee object based on the employee ID and then set the values and finally save the object. That you can try yourself. Then we have find employee. So it is loading the employee based on the emp ID query list. Then it is creating the form object and returning the form object. So it is returning the employee in the employee form object, not in the employee entity format. So this is also a good thing to return the data in the DTO objects. Then load employee, we are just loading the employee based on the ID and returning the employee. Similarly, to delete, we have to load the employee and then perform session.delete. So it is deleted. Next is to service class. So in the service class, we'll define all those methods, and then its implementation is here, employee service implementation, and we are getting we are calling all this on the employee DAO. So to employee, set employee DAO, then add employee, find employee, display employee, and it is all calling on the method, the respective method on the employee DAO. Now service is done, and let's see what is happening in the controller. So this is the controller class, which is configured automatically by the. So this is the controller class which is configured by Spring Web Controller, Spring Web Framework. So it is annotated with the controller so that it can be configured as a controller, and you can see here this is the annotation, MVC annotation driven. So this MVC is annotation driven, and context component to be scanned is net.roseindia.controller. So all the files in the controller class will be scanned and configured as a controller. So this is a controller, and the employee service which is auto wired through with the help of auto wire annotation, and this employee service which is defined here is now, this employee service is now available in the controller class. So in the index.html we are displaying the home. So request mapping is index page.html, then we are displaying the home. If request is employee form, we are displaying the employee form. and for this we are putting this in the model, this employee form in the model, and then the add employee, the display employee.html. Here it is model, then validate the employee form, then binding results, and if employee has got some ID, it will edit employee, and if there is no ID, it is, if ID is greater than 0 means there is some data which is already present in the database, then we can calling the edit employee, and if there is no, if the value is 0, we are calling it a add employee, and finally redirecting it to the display page. And in the display page we are getting service.display employee form. So it is getting all the data and putting in the model, and then calling the display form. So display form is here in the JSP file. I'll show you later on. Then load for search employee form. It is loading the search form, and display search result. It is service.find search form. So based on the search form data, it is retrieving the data from the database and putting it into the model, and finally calling the display form page. And to edit, it is displaying the getting the employee and finally displaying the edit form page. Similarly, to delete data, it simply calls the delete employee method and then displays the display page. So this is about the controller, and let's see how dispatcher is configured. So this is the dispatcher servlet, and it is based on MVC annotation, and package to be scanned is this net.roseindia controllers, and the view resolvers is configuring web-inf/views directory and suffixes JSP. This is JSP files present in web-inf/views will be used to generate the views. Then we have data source mapping, and we are using this data source, driver manager data source, and the driver class is com.mysql.jdbc driver, and database URL is localhost 3306/spring Hibernate, which is this database which is running on my computer. Then we have session factory configuration, annotation session factory configuration, and it is loading the annotated class employee. So the model we have created here, employee.java, is loaded here. And then other properties of the Hibernate dialect, and now we should create the objects of the DAO classes, then service implementation classes, and the messages is here in the web-inf/messages. So these are all about the configuration, and let's see what is in the web.xml. It is simply registering the dispatcher servlet and mapping all .html with this dispatcher servlet. Welcome file is index.jsp. So this is the index.jsp, which is internally redirecting to the index page.html, and in the controller, index page.html is going to the home. So in the web-inf we should have the home. So home is displaying these employee form, add employee, search employee, display, edit, and delete. So search form is actually presenting this search form, and which is posted to the action search employee.html, and this is the display form, which is actually using the display table and the employee ID. So this tag is used to display the table, HTML table based on the value in the request object. And this is employee form and search form. So this way you can create a simple Spring Hibernate integrated application which is showing you how you can add the data, delete the data, list the data, and then edit the data. And we have tried to make this example as much as easier, so you can see how easy it is to run this. Right click and then run on server. So we have already configured the Tomcat here, and then finish. So it is running. So this page is your home.jsp, which is displaying all these links. Add employee. So this is the employee form, employee name, address, salary, and so on. Then search is this search form. So if you don't enter anything, it will display all the data. And then this is the display data page, which is displaying the data in the tabular format. Employee ID, employee name, address, salary, and so on. This link should not be present. Anyway, you can just click here to add or edit. So we have the source code here. You can download it from here and try on your computer. We have thousands of tutorials on Hibernate programming as well as Spring programming on our website. So you can go through these tutorials and learn the Hibernate and Spring framework in detail. We have everything related to Spring and Hibernate on our website. So visit our website and learn from these tutorials. You can also search from here. So thanks for watching the video and subscribe our YouTube channel.